CBSA union president confirms that Canada is an open border state. Canada's border is no longer a serious institution. The CBSA union president, under oath, has now confirmed two staggering failures. Refugee claimants are being admitted through a digital portal with no interviews or verification, and more than half of airport officers are actually students with 3 weeks of training. Under the one-touch system, claimants provide only a name, date of birth, and biometrics, often unverifiable, and are released into Canada to finish their own screening later. 10% never do, vanishing into a system that already can't track an estimated 20,000 to 500,000 illegal immigrants. At the same time, students indistinguishable from real officers are left alone to make national security decisions at major airports. This combination, no screening at the border and barely trained staff at the gate, has turned Canada into a de facto open border state, one where criminals and bad actors face fewer barriers than ever before. So, at what point do Canadians admit the system is not broken, but it's been designed this way?
Wow. That's getting pretty wild, eh?
Yeah.
I find it even difficult, and I don't mean to be offensive when I say this. I feel like we just contextualize everything, but you go to even the airports and everybody you meet is young and an immigrant, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a government organization. A lot of these things are run through either government proxy, Crown Corp, something like that. So they have these DEI mandates, you know what I mean? And it's never anybody that has been here what feels like more than, a few years. And I don't have a problem with people that are doing that. It just feels disjointed. It feels disjointed that our entire country is being put in this position. And this is just sort of another example of the same thing. And that's just kind of, addressing this like 3-week student thing. Like that's nonsense to our border, which, I mean, we've had this discussion before. The number one thing you have to protect is your border for a federal government. Like, I mean, that is the number one line of defense, I should say, from any foreign actors. So that's what I'm talking about, because that's the first thing they're going to try to penetrate, the first thing they're going to try to compromise, right? And when you make it a bunch of kids, what opportunity are you really giving yourself to hold anybody off or make better decisions or sort of, put the safety of the country above all? And it just feels like it's not really an option when they do it like this. And to your point, when do we admit that it's not just broken, it's designed this way? Well, I think that's what I'm touching on. I think you're seeing this right now. If they were taking this seriously, these people wouldn't be in these roles. That's like, at what point in your life do you feel confident to make the right decisions to be in a role like this? How much training, how much time in the market do you think you actually need? It's definitely more than 3 weeks. That's 100% the case. So for me, I'm not sure Canadians are going to admit the system has been designed this way, because I think they do a really great job of using we do this for DEI, we do this for equality, we do this to give people opportunity. And then I think everything happening within the CBSA and at the border is just a black hole. I don't think anybody in Canada has any idea what's actually going on there. The fact that we've had Luke Sabrin on twice on the podcast, and the things that he has said and what we know about what's going on there, and no one else has any information on this whatsoever. I'd say it's one of their best kept secrets, actually. So in terms of like, when will they admit that it's designed this way? I don't think they have any idea what's really going on.
Yeah. And what was crazy is when I talked about, I did a piece on this, because this is two separate questionings. The one where he admitted about the students, the CBSA union president, where he was admitting the students thing, and then also the issue with the one-touch portal is what they call it, right? And I got hit with a fact check. The first fact check I've got hit with in years, and it says missing context, reviewed by third-party independent fact checkers. And then I go read the fact check, and it's wild, because the fact check, all it says is, pretty much everything in this video or what these people are claiming is true. It's just not a phone app. Maybe I used the word phone app. I can't remember, but that's what they hit the fact check with, is being like, no, this is a digital portal. It's not a phone app. And then so
How
you
do
think about
access said digital portal,
right? And so when you also look at the fact check, anytime you get hit with one of those, it just kills your reach.
For sure.
So they just killed that story effectively, because I know everybody else that covered that also got hit with that exact same fact check.
Right.
So they just demolished that story in the public eye. And yeah, all for a semantics game. But the underlying story was 100% true. And that's how they essentially control the narrative.
Well, they keep it, again, the best kept secret in a sense. And so my question, do we know who does the fact checking in Canada on our social media platforms through these organizations?
It depends, because I think there's a bunch of different fact checkers,
Yeah.
and then they can, depending on what the claim is or what the story is, different fact checkers will fact check different things.
Okay.
But this one was AFP, so I'm not too sure about what AFP is as a company, but they're literally called factcheck.afp.com. But the other thing that I found wild about this story is, that he was saying at Pearson and so Toronto and Vancouver airports, the students outnumber officials. There's more students than there is actual CBSA officers. And I was running through this as well, because he's talking about, well, yes, we have to do this because, one, it's cheap labor. He described them as cheap labor, the students.
Right.
And two, he said, well, we're having a staffing shortage. Can anybody explain to me why we're having record levels of bureaucracy? They're vastly expanding the federal government, but then you're telling me, arguably the most important duty you have, which is the border, that you're saying you're short-staffed. Where are these people going? I would argue they're probably all at the CRA, but yeah, it's crazy.
Right, AFP. So the reason I was like, okay, how do I know this? They reached out to us once.
Oh, really?
This is that woman that I told you that wanted us to give them some information on breaking independent news channels in Canada.
Yeah. Was this about the Toronto apartment video that you did?
It might have been, yeah. Yeah. So they reached out and they were looking. I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, this feels like a trap. And so they have a Montreal office. They're funded by governments in Europe. Their budget's 326 million annually, might be euros. And it says that it's not a small team in Canada and the United States. And they've got some sort of agreement with Meta and Instagram. So they're dedicated journalists, but they basically, to me, to your point, it seems like they are one of these teams that are weaponized against information that they want to bury or want to hide.
Right.
So it's just like I don't know how they scrape or flag, but as soon as they do, they just sick one of these people on there and go, find a reason to flag this, find a reason to quote unquote fact check this so we can bury this story. And that's, I guess, how that looks like it's shaken out. That's wild.
Independent fact checkers funded by states to the tune of 326 million euros,
annually.
Which is what? Probably closer to $500 million Canadian?
100%, yeah.
That's absolutely wild. But then, too, even one of the things that they pointed at in the quote unquote fact check article is they were saying, well, actually, it's individuals that are deemed low risk that are sent to this portal. But again, go listen to our podcast interview with Luke Sabrin, and what he's discussed at length is how CBSA officials are given quotas for people coming in, immigrants coming into Canada, and how essentially CBSA officers are given such a tight window for a certain amount of applications they have to go through that they're being turned into rubber stamps, because you don't actually have the time to go through any.
Well, like you said earlier, basically it's like, tell me your name and do some biometric logging, and it's like, well, you seem low risk, cool, I'll catch you later. Like, what would be the assessment? What would be the criteria you would look through to be like, oh, well, I checked their biometrics and they're not on a terrorist list. That's your only biometric you have, and that's assuming you have access to global data. So for me, I'm just going, yeah, great, rubber stamp, huge hole in the, which for me, look, like, I guess the question is, what's the end game? You know what I mean? Like where does it stop? How does this serve the sitting government in a sense?
Well,
like
if you want to replace the nation through migration, which the UN has openly stated, they have a 177-page report that is titled Replacement Migration.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Century Initiative in Canada, which is led by people like I believe it was Mark? Yeah, it's Mark Wiseman who was leading the Century Initiative, which is the goal is to have Canada's population at 100 million by 2100, like the year 2100.
Yep.
And so you look at that and you go, yeah, of course, this is just serving that agenda. Just get people in, rubber stamp it, get them through the door. And also, to your point of, like, you were talking about the over contextualization of, like, say, the background of some of these people at the CBSA roles. It's important because, look, people do have in-group biases subconsciously, 100%. And like it doesn't matter what, it's not just European people, it's not just Indian people, it's not just Chinese people or whatever. People have biases towards their in-group. This is like evolutionary psychology 101. And so, okay, if you want to rubber stamp people from certain areas in the world, if you put people that are at the border that are from that same nationality,
yes,
like, yeah, they're going to trust, or hey, who knows? Maybe they're aligned with the goals. Maybe that guy has I mean, we've seen it as well when the Peel Regional Police, they have Khalistani banners hanging in the police like foyers and stuff. And so, of course, if somebody is, wants or is aligned with the Khalistani movement, which wants to create an independent Sikh state, then of course they would look at somebody that's coming across with, say, ties to the Khalistani movement and go, yeah, I'm not going to flag this one. Like this is common sense stuff and
brown nationalism.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what? I agree. I mean, obviously they're trying to flood people in here. And I know they need to continue increasing the population, et cetera, whatever. It's a shame when you're seeing it done this way because there's no real safety net in place. So if you want to drive people into the country at a rapid rate, there's just a much better way to do it. There's a much higher threshold that you can have. There's much better incentives you can offer. Think about it this way. So you bring people in right now that are dependent on the government because they can't find work and they don't bring a lot of tangible value to the community right now. It is what it is. It's just a fact, especially when you're looking at asylum seekers, refugees, stuff like that. So the amount of money it costs to help someone survive in this country for several years before they find their footing, why don't you flip this around and then use that as an incentive structure for high value earners? Be like, hey, you want to start a business here? We will help you by doing X. Hey, you want to bring your manufacturing and production here? Great. This is the industry you're in. We will pool funds into this industry. You can leverage these funds to come here and have a better opportunity. Or we can use them as tax breaks. So you can take the same amount of money that they're using to bring in people that are quote unquote sort of low value. And I don't mean rude to be rude. It just kind of is what it is when you think about economic output. So you bring in all these people from sort of these more low value areas. You have to basically subsidize their living costs, hoping that it turns around or they turn into sort of a valuable contributor to society. That's what you're looking at. So take that same money and then give it to people that are already high value, high earning, capable individuals through tax incentives, through some other financial programs to try to bring them into the country to then build more means of production and actually create higher GDP from the people you bring in from the get-go. I don't know why they don't look at it that way because you can still keep people coming in at an expeditious rate and you can do it more above board so Canadians sort of identify this as a positive as opposed to some sneaky secret negative.
For sure. And that would be better than what we currently have. But I don't even think you need to go that far as to financially incentivize these people. You just need to get out of their way. Like the number one thing you could do is just remove regulation and red tape that is unnecessary. It's not even like bribing them because high value people don't look to the government and be like, I want an opportunity. I need you to provide it for me. It's like, just don't ruin my opportunity.
Yeah. I think the reason I was saying that I was looking at it as just like a fifth, like a split, like take this and put it here, no difference. Also, I think that to your point about regulation, taxation, all these other things, I don't think anybody that's super successful is looking at Canada as a great opportunity right now.
Right.
So I think you kind of have to incentivize. So either you have to not only get out of their way, you have to curb a lot of the regulation that currently exists, or find some way to incentivize if you're not going to remove the structure in place. So it's kind of like you kind of have to do something, right? Like you couldn't entice me here. You just couldn't. I mean, you and I know a lot, and I mean, Canada's not been great to our generation. So I think you and I are kind of like a little scarred from it, But once you dig in and start to understand a little more about what's going on, it does not look like a very appealing environment, right? So anyway, yeah, same page.
No, I agree.